Hi everyone, Badthony Flood Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Algiers record, There Is No Year. This is the third full-length LP from Atlanta band Algiers, one of my most anticipated records of 2020. I love everything the band has done up until this point and can't really think of another group that is delivering their same politically charged and exciting combination of post-punk and soul. Algiers isn't just sonically refreshing though, they're also quite good at what they do. For example, singer Franklin James Fisher, the frontman of the band, he is one of the wildest singers to ever make it on Matador Records, easily. His passion, his range, the fire in his belly. It's all so much bolder than what you usually get from a band making the rounds in the indie scene. And the way the band approaches social issues and power struggles in their music just gives so much urgency to everything they do. So all of that, everything that's made Algiers an exciting band up until this point, I was hoping for just another dose of that on this new record. And I can't deny that I sort of got that here, but I feel like that's all the band managed to do on this one, meaning that I think this record is a little uninspired. There are tracks going into it I enjoyed, and I still like hearing them in the context of the record, though I do wonder where the experimental jazz sound collage piece, Can the Sub Bass Speak, went. That certainly would have added some more flavor to the track list, though I guess I could understand ultimately not placing the song on the album because generally this record plays it so safe for Algiers that I don't know, I'm not even really sure where I would put it. One of the main issues I have with this album ultimately is that Algiers somehow sounds less revolutionary than they did when they originally burst onto the scene, and not just by virtue of their sound being so well established at this point. It feels like the group has really stripped their sound back to simply this gloomy crossroads of post-punk and soul. And sure, while that is primarily what they were known for, what was also excellent about their previous work is when you would catch hits of industrial music, of gospel music, of blues music. That same stylistic diversity doesn't really show up on There Is No Year. What also made the band's past material so entertaining is that you would occasionally get these freaky or even funky outliers like Black Eunuch or Irony, Utility, Pretext. Meanwhile, the closest thing we have to that on There Is No Year is Chaka, which granted is a kind of fun track, but when I listen to it, I feel like I'm getting punked. It's kind of uncanny how this track sounds exactly like how I would imagine if you took a moody new wave instrumental and tried to run a bunch of Michael Jackson type vocal lines over it. It's a very odd marriage of sounds, and there are a few groups out there that I think could pull it off as well as I guess Algiers does here, but it still kind of sounds like the band lost a bet. Meanwhile, there are quite a few songs deeper into the track list that are much more low-key by comparison, which isn't necessarily new or bad for Algiers. There are plenty of tension builders and slow burners on the band's first two records, like the song Blood or the song Games, where vocally, sure, the band is overselling it, maybe a little bit, but the drama, you can cut it with a knife. The tortured and dismal emotions on these tracks are captivating. Sadly, I can't say the same for tracks off this thing like Wait for the Sound, which is hilariously titled considering that much of the time I feel like I'm waiting for something interesting to happen. Like even a cool texture or something would be nice. And that's the thing, a lot of the sub-bass, the distortion, the melds of rock instrumentation and electronics, the atmosphere that made the band's first couple of records so chaotic and so intriguing, all of that's pretty much missing here. Meanwhile, Unoccupied is the first instance of an Algiers song where I found the lyrics to be so uninspired the song actually bored me, allowing doubt to turn you away or someone else away from a relationship. I can't say the band's writing on this topic is as inspired as it is on others. Maybe it's a metaphor, I'm not sure. Which is a shame because this track does feature one of the better instrumentals here, sans the weird synth embellishments in the second half that don't really make all that much sense. Then as far as poetry goes, on Repeating Night, the lyrics are so much more compelling, revolutionary, but it's attached to one of the more underwritten instrumentals here. The chord change that swoops in after the first verse is so sour and so thankless. Meanwhile, the entire track is backed with this absolutely gutless boring beat that does not change with or react at all to any of the instrumentation moving and shifting on top of it. Look, I think the record does have a somewhat strong start with There Is No Year and Dispossession. Those are dynamic, exciting, bold, and well-performed Algiers songs that could have fit on their past two records seamlessly. Then there's Nothing Bloomed, which does have a pretty unassuming beginning, like many other Lowkey tracks here, but the immense and noisy drone it builds up to in the finish is actually one of the more incredible moments on the record here, so kudos for that one. While a lot of Algiers' most notable characteristics do carry over onto this record, it doesn't change that a lot of the tracks here roll off the tongue like flat soda. Sure, by comparison, their debut album was a lot messier, more unfocused, but the performances and the genre fusions were so much gutsier. That same electricity just does not carry over onto There Is No Year, which I think intentionally is trying to be a bit more predictable. And while I do respect this pans out into the cleanest recording on an Algiers record, some of their most accessible material to date as well, it also leads to some of the mildest and most forgettable and most underwhelming songs they've ever put out too. Feeling a strong 5 to a light 6 on this one. Transition. Have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best. You're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Algiers, forever.